Welcome one, welcome all. It is a NFL Week 15 special, and the reason why it's special is because Mangone from France is joining me instead of AP this week. Just look at the Eiffel Tower in the background. He's celebrating a great day, a day where we get to watch Easton Stick and Aiden O'Connell ball out on Thursday Night Football on a 34.5-point team total. How you doing, Mangone?
Yeah, excited to be here. Excited to be here live from France with the Eiffel Tower in the background. But I am excited kind of for this game, Rubio, and I think you know why. Last week I had a good day with the Patriots and Steelers showdown, and this has Patriots Steelers showdown written all over it, in my opinion. And honestly, I was going through it last night, just kind of joking, and I was like, can I make a build that was similar to the one that won last time? And I just see some similarities from this slate, the last slate, and I want to talk about Easton Stick a lot. I think he's really interesting. I think I'm curious what his ownership is going to be. I hope people overlook him because I'm kind of buying on him a little bit in this matchup, just in general. Seems like a running quarterback. Seems like his attitude seems good. He said, "Yeah, I know I haven't won in the National Football League," but he said, I'm a winner, though, basically. So, I won a lot of games at North Dakota State. So, I know how to win. So, I don't know. I'm excited for this slate. It should be intriguing. Obviously, we have injury news that we're waiting on. Josh Jacobs is the key one. It sounds like Adams is going to play. Keenan Allen already ruled out. So, we have a plethora of Raiders receivers to pick from. Good luck which one you want to go with. Or not Raiders, Chargers receivers. And on the Raiders side, obviously, we have running back roulette, which we'll talk about with how to handle. Will it be Samir White? Will it be Amir Abdullah? That'll be an interesting conversation for sure, depending on the game script, I'm sure. It depends on how the decision you go.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. In terms of on paper, it looks pretty gross. You got Keenan Allen out. I assume we're going to base this show on Josh Jacobs missing. All right, if Josh Jacobs is in, we're going to have plenty of content that'll keep you updated on. We're going to build as if Josh Jacobs is in, and the reason why that's significant is because his replacement, backup, is Samir White at $3K. That is an insanely cheap tag for a starting running back on a favorite team, right? So you're going to have a lot of chances tonight to get unique man going with just salary alone, because you can play the number one running back on both teams. You can play the number one quarterback for both teams, and you can still have ample salary to leave, like at the end of the day. And we have Keenan Allen out. A lot of people are going to funnel Austin Ekeler. Josh Palmer is back. We don't know what the snap count situation will be. We did get a comment in chat, too, where Josh Palmer is a free square on FanDuel at $5K. So there's another cheap guy on FanDuel that you can even mix in. But, yes, it's kind of unique in the aspect where Easton Stick and Ekeler are literally the only options above $7K on the Chargers. And when you look at the Raiders, Davante Adams thankfully being in, you only got three guys above, $5K even on the Raiders side of the ball. So very few spend-up options. Even going cheap at captain could be the move. But we just ran the base build. Let's check out where the numbers are heading. And it is Samir White captain that is first. And it leaves 500 in this first build here. A build that might be a little bit popular, but Mangone, I liked what you said about Easton Stick. I'd rather have like an Easton Stick team just like this. You give me Easton Stick over Jacoby Myers or Aiden O'Connell. I think that's the move tonight. And I don't want to judge anyone when they come in as relief in the middle of a game. And it does suck that it's a short week because I think game planning is so important for a backup quarterback. But he showed talent. He was a runner in college. He did not run once last week, which was surprising. But you can see where the base build is taking us. It's a lot of Raiders captains, literally only Raiders. Oh, wait, never mind. Sorry. It is a lot of Raiders captains with Ekeler and Easton Stick in the mix. And then just on the flex side, it's really trying to jam in 4-2 Raiders or even 5-1s in that aspect.
Yeah, so one thing this is one thing I definitely thought on that Patriots Steelers slate when I noticed, and I'm happy the builds are looking like this, is like, I just thought like the Steelers, like if you looked at all of their price tags, right, on that last slate, you had Warren expensive, right? All the guys were expensive. It's the same situation with the Raiders, right? Like Adams costs us like money, Myers, O'Connell. I kind of want Josh Jacobs to play because I think people are just going to jam in these Raiders as like raw point guys, and I think it's stupid. Like, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't just jam them in. I would want to embrace that we have a quarterback we've never seen before with receivers we've never seen catch from him, right? Like I would want to embrace that a little bit. For one, I think Austin Ekeler is probably like, if there's a guy that's probably on every single team for me, it's probably him. Like if there is, he seems like the guy. Now I don't know about you. I know there was the last week there was the situation where they were splitting more time, so maybe we could talk about that. But I just think his raw points are just going to be too good to pass up on. Are you like in agreement, or do you think there's some opportunity to fade that at the ownership?
I think there's opportunity to fade. The thing is, like, he does get a bump without Keenan Allen, so I don't want to ignore that. And I think it might be just too significant. You said it right? Take the raw points and run. I just struggle with a guy who's losing his role in that position, right? We saw 9 carries go to Spiller and Kelly last week. He had 10 carries. They got behind early, and there was a check down fest in the second half. And that's not to say the same thing can't happen here, because if they go down, he is the guy. I think, though, that there could be a lot of leverage in fading and even going a guy where, let's say Staley sticks to his word. Let's say Spiller rips off a 20-yard run or Kelly rips off a 20-yard run. The chance that Ekeler loses work, to me, is probably greater than what he'll be 85% owned or something like that. It's just going to be one of those freakish ownerships. It could be closer to 70 when it's end all be all, but like, I think the risk is greater than what we're putting on. And obviously PPR on DraftKings, it's great. You're going to have limited spend off options, but he is actually my least favorite stud on the slate because I do like attacking this Chargers secondary. I do like Myers. I do like Adams. I don't like Ekeler. And that's been the theme this season. However, I got to put on the blinders here because without Keenan, and who else is Easton Stick even going to throw the ball to?
Yeah, one other thing to call out, which I think is important, is like the Raiders defense. There's JT. Got the nice little Eiffel Tower in the background for you, JT. But this Raiders defense, they played really good. I know the other day, but this Chargers defense is bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if we got a bad Raiders defense again, right? Like I know they were great the other day. But I just wouldn't be surprised if it just flipped, right? They just had an amazing game where they held the Vikings to 3 points, right? I don't think it's going to happen again for sure, right? So I'm willing to bet on points being scored in this game. I think a lot of people don't want to bet on points being scored. I want to. And if you think Aiden O'Connell can't move the ball, well, this Chargers defense is very bad, right? It's just so I'm banking on the ball gets moved a lot more in this matchup, and I can't wait to see what happens. I mean, look at this happens a lot. Someone like Josh Dobbs, right? He came in, and not a lot of people knew really about him, and he played pretty good. And then maybe now film is on him, and now he's in trouble. I don't know if that's the case, but first time out on these backup quarterbacks, you can see some magic happen. So I'm definitely willing to bet on there's a lot more scoring on this game. I don't know what to do with the defenses in this spot. That's something we'll obviously get to as we keep going through it all. I did want to ask you this. Samir White is on some of these teams, or a lot of them. Is that because the projection right now has him or Josh Jacobs? So that's a worthy point to talk about.
It's we have Samir. We have Josh Jacobs out. We got Samir White.
Okay, cool. I figured. I just wanted to make sure and I guess we're under the assumption he's out right now. Also, another thing to talk about that I noticed in your builds is you're getting someone like Alex Erickson for cheap. I think he's newer to the team, but when you play someone like Easton Stick, you want to play guys that have been with him, right? You know what I mean? The backup squad. You can always make the argument that someone who's been in practice with him is that wide receiver 4 on the team that's his wide receiver 1 in practice, and then someone like Keenan Allen's down, so he's gonna play up. I just wouldn't ignore it. I think he's kind of newer to the team, though.
He's been there about at least a month because he caught his first pass a few weeks ago. In garbage time and stuff. And yeah, I don't think he's been working with Stick in that time frame. Well, he's probably been working with him the last 3 weeks without a doubt, but he has been relatively there the last month and a half. And I want to say this too, real quick. When we have Erickson and stuff. Let's check Easton Stick's rushing thing on Saber because I want to see what they're projecting from rushing wise, and it's about 15 yards. Do you think he can sail over that? Because I honestly think that just seeing his stats at North Dakota State, that was 6 years ago, believe it or not, or almost five or 6 years ago. He's a runner. He had over 600 yards back-to-back seasons running the ball, and that's when you lose yards when you get sacked in college. You lose rushing yards. I think that him not running was by design. I think the coaching staff told him, like, hey, don't run. We don't want to like disclose how mobile you are or anything like that. And there's a little games at play, right? I know that the backup quarterback wants to come in and make an impression, but the fact that he did not run at all, despite being in garbage time, despite being in a pass-happy script, I think they were saving him for this game, to be honest.
All right, so let's put this into perspective a little bit. So I looked up his 40 time. I know it's not everything. 4.62. That's not as fast as Rubio Dimes, but it's fast. And then I just happened to look up like wide receivers with 4.640s. Right? I just Googled it real quick, and they said Davante Adams ran a 4.56. Like, what I'm just saying is this guy's faster than people think. So I'm definitely on the Easton Stick train. I'm definitely going to be a fan of him tonight. I will definitely be rooting him on. I think you play him in the captain. I think you play him in the utility. I think you play him anywhere. I think he's going to be one of the better plays on this slate. So I'll definitely be looking at him for sure. And I mean, we don't have really that many spends on the Chargers, but we do have spends on like the Raiders. Like the whole Jacoby Myers and Davante Adams thing has been a bit perplexing all season long. And I think everyone was like thinking with the quarterback changes, oh, now that the change happened, Davante Adams will be back. And he still hasn't been there. And like, these are the spots where like, I'm not saying we shouldn't play Davante Adams, but projections are pounding a guy that has clearly not been as good as Jacoby Myers all year. Like it's one of those things where you can argue there's opportunity here, right? Like to kind of take advantage of the projections a little bit when there's some, like I do like these kind of slates where there's just guys that are projected like to be super high owned that just haven't been good this season, right? Because that just leads us to opportunity, right? So I don't know. I'm interested to get your thoughts on how you're handling Adams.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks that he comes in injured. No doubt about it. But I do think that this Chargers defense, like you said, is pretty bad. And they're very bad in the secondary. And a lot of people are going to funnel to Samir White, and that's going to be the right play. $3K is too cheap for a starting running back in a favored script. Everything's going to go right for Samir White. Don't ignore him. I do want to attack this secondary by any means. Davante Adams, Jacoby Myers. I will go Adams just because this dude cares about his stats, right? The Raiders are all but eliminated. What are they? Like they're 5-8, right? They need a miracle to make the playoffs. That miracle isn't going to happen. However, they want to get their stats. Davante Adams especially wants to get his stats, and that's what I want. I want wide receivers who are a little bit of a diva. I want those stats to rein in. I want the 7 catches for 70 yards, and I'll call it a day, Travis. I think 7 for 70. You give me 14, I'll probably take you from Davante here. And same with Jacoby Myers. And I think they're the right plays. I think I would rather play the wide receivers over AOC as well. That's a kind of a tougher take, but I wouldn't mind just playing the 4 Raiders skill players, and then you're going to have plenty of salary. Easton Stick in there, and like you mentioned, you have some value like Alex Erickson and stuff too. Where I don't think it's the worst play at all here.
Well, Rubio, low scoring games, like I think people don't value PPR points enough. So that's one thing that I did last slate that we had a really short slate was I don't think I had any quarterbacks. I mean, I don't know if I X'd them, but I just wanted skill position players that are like, for the most part, right? Like that was the whole goal of that slate in the captain was give me these skill guys that are going to get PPR points. That's all I really wanted. That's why I didn't mind having Jaylen Warren and Zeke, because both those guys, in my opinion, are going to catch enough passes where I thought we had to kind of consider them. So I want these PPR options. Another thing to consider, Rubio, is like, dude, this slate is really gross, right? Like and because it's so gross, sometimes I don't think it's bad to embrace like the variance of just not knowing what's going to happen. Like so we're looking at it right now. You have Samir White at 32% captain. You think he's going to be the highest owned captain, correct?
No, I think it'll be Ekeler.
Okay, you think it'll be Ekeler. So whoever the highest owned captain is for me today, I do not want to be overweight on him, right? I probably just want to be even with the field. That way it's not going to kill me, but I'm going to also get exposure to all these other captain options that we need to go for. So that's just how I think it's a good way to handle the slate. I like slates where I don't know what's going to happen because everyone thinks they know what's going to happen, right? And I think we could just embrace that and kind of go a little bit the other way. Like, why couldn't it be like on this slate? Why couldn't it be a Gerald Everett captain, a Michael Mayer captain, right? Why couldn't it be some of these cheaper captains and then jam in all the studs too? That's another approach. Like, what cheap options do you actually like besides the Chargers receivers? I mean, sure, I guess Samir White is cheap, but
Samir White.
you get the point I'm getting at is like these, think of different builds than the field, right? Flip the build because we don't know what's going to happen on these slates. I struggle more with the kicker captains. It is interesting that we are getting some kicker captains and defense captains as well. But I don't know, just embrace that a little bit. And I know Snyder's in the chat. He made fun of me, or he didn't, I don't know if he made fun of me, but he said, did I just say that Jacoby Myers has been better than Adams? I mean, Rubio, aren't you in agreement that like Myers has been kind of more of the guy than Adams, as crazy as it sounds?
No, I think you are. I think you're crazy. I think that Myers is kind of waned off. Don't forget that Devontae threw a fit after not getting the ball enough. He's still been a double-digit machine. Earlier in the season, you were right, but over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, you're wrong.
I mean, I'll give you the last 4 weeks, Rubio. I'm not giving you the week where he had 2 and 7 DK points for. He did have 7 targets in it. It's fair. The targets have trended upward, so there may be a little bit of bias there for me, but point I'm getting at is it's closer than people think right now. And I think Adams is a better player, but I'm just talking usage has definitely been there for Myers for sure.
All right. Let me go ahead and delete that build. And don't forget, you can always rename your builds, guys. So if you ever want to right click up in that top screen right there, you can do this and go and sucks at the Ego Legends. All right. So don't forget to name your builds. We got that name now. Let's go ahead and go into the slate, how we want to go position by position. So we did this last time with you, Travis. We went position by position, and we want to kind of buy or sell these players, right? Do you want Easton Stick above Aiden O'Connell tonight?
I do want Easton Stick above Aiden O'Connell. I see. So look how the projection is like 12.27 and Aiden O'Connell's 13.35. Like, why not? I'm not a Timo main, Vincent. That was very hurtful. That is very hurtful. That was really good. Easton, that was a very good comment. If you play League of Legends, that's funny. Easton Stick. I want to embrace that. The field's going to have Aiden O'Connell projected higher, so let's just flip them, right? Let's just flip it because what is the likelihood that one is higher than the other? I think it's like a coin flip. I don't think it's – so I'm down to go Easton Stick. I want the running quarterback, so I love that. I think at times when I notice the field is doing one thing and I think it's way closer, I just literally will flip the build based on the projection and then just call it a day from there. I think it's a pretty good route to go. That's something I learned a little bit from JBC about some MMA stuff is like, just if you like that guy better, just flip that projection with him. And I think it's kind of okay to do.
I think we can even get slightly more aggressive on Easton Stick too. Just for the sake of the show, I think getting Easton Stick a substantial amount higher, I think his running game is being a little bit underappreciated here on Saber. And I think that will be the way across the board. I think people are going to look at last game. People aren't really going to look at what he did in college. And his rushing is only 6 yards higher than Aiden O'Connell. This is an Aiden O'Connell has rushed for 11 yards in the season. All right. I think it's very possible that Easton Stick could run for 25, 30 yards tonight. I don't want to discount that at all. I want to get aggressive on him. And I think that he is the quarterback play, and not because he's in a better spot. It's because he can run. And I think it's very valuable. I think there's a conversation that we can have a little bit later about can you run Easton Stick naked? And that's something that we'll save when we get to wide receivers. But yes, I agree with you. I think the quarterback's here. A slight tick down to Aiden O'Connell, a slight tick up to Easton Stick. And yeah, here we go. Let's go to running back now.
Rubio, keep in mind too, like Easton Stick is in the final year of his contract with this team. Like the dude is 28 years old. Like he's trying to get another deal and stay in the league for another. Like if he could have a stretch here where he looks good, he's bound to be a backup for 5 more years, right? I mean, this is a big deal for him. You could argue this is the biggest game of his life. You know what I mean? So
there's just one huge issue.
What?
Brandon Staley is his head coach.
That is fair.
But Kellen Moore held back the Cowboys offense. He held back Dak. And look at him now. I mean, look, they're about to get canned from Los Angeles. They're about to get fired. And look at Mike McCarthy, the true sharp The true
Oh.
sharp of the NFL, Mike McCarthy.
To be fair though, like for Easton Stick, Chargers are always in competitive games. If I'm a backup quarterback that wants to survive in the league, I want to be in a competitive game. I'll at least say that. Like I want to, if I could play 4 competitive games and maybe steal 1 or 2, that's going to secure me a job. So I'm in on that.
I like it. Let's get the running back now. So obviously we are planning on, we are doing the show based on Josh Jacobs being out. I lean that'll be out. Van Goen's kind of in between or whatever, but I think for the sake of the show, instead of middling ourselves, we're going to go ahead and just assume he's out. So
yeah, let's assume he's out, Rubio, because if he's in, like it's probably still going to be split up more than we think and be weird. So yeah, let's just assume he's out. I think it makes sense.
I like it. I like it. And let's go ahead and dive into these running backs here. So Ekeler's the top projected back. I mean, it's a fair projection. I mean, it's a fair one. I can't really like just knock anyone for saying, oh yeah, 14 for Ekeler is fine. But what are you buying and selling on this group here?
Okay, well, one thing I like to look at, maybe this is like a wrong thought process, Rubio. Because Austin Ekeler is 11K and Easton Stick is, what is he? He's like he's 9.6 or 9.4. Like, if you project, this is a big question I'll ask you because I always struggle with this one. If you project Easton Stick over Ekeler, that means you think he's the best play on the slate no matter what. And like, you're going to have a lot of teams that leave salary. Are you okay with that? Like, sometimes what I'll do is like, if I'm not okay, but I'm already getting a lot of Easton Stick, I might project Austin Ekeler. Like, if I have Easton Stick at 14.75, I might project Ekeler at 14.76 just because of the salary stuff. I don't know. What is your overall thoughts on that? Because that's something I go back and forth on. But also on this slate, I could argue salary might not matter, and we could be leaving a ton of salary on the table today.
I think the second take right there was Samir White in our script, right? And our thought that if Josh Jacobs misses, Samir White is 3K. You're going to have plenty of salary no matter what.
Okay.
I hate Ekeler. I think he's washed. I mean, at the end of the day, he's washed. And he can still score tonight. He's still a good play in terms of just floor and, getting the raw points or whatever. I do not want to just go above and beyond the field on Ekeler. And I think it's worth experimenting. And this is one of those things, too, where we can run this many times. For the sake of the show, we only run it once. But if we're not happy with what we have Ekeler out at, we can rerun it and stuff. But yeah. I think for the sake of it, let's do a slight sell. Let's get him below Easton Stick. I think even going just a little bit more aggressive and then putting him below Devontae Adams as well. And I think that we can kind of see where this leads us, right? I want to see where it leads us when we bump Ekeler down because I still think it's going to try and jam him in because of just PPR, especially on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think he's a bad play. On FanDuel, 5 spots only. Don't give me Ekeler. The only, hedge it with the touchdown bet. He's going to score. Fade him, and then if he gets into the box, he gets into the box.
I agree with everything that you're saying on the Ekeler stuff. Like, I want to be lower on him than the field. Doesn't mean I'm fading. Like, I think Xing him would be crazy on this slate. But if let's say the slate starts, right, and we look at the ownership, and Eckler's like 65 to 80%, and I got like 50 or 45, I'm comfortable with that. So I would like to be either with the field or under more on Ekeler. I do think we'll talk about when we get to the captain, I guess, with him, what happens with that when we make adjustments. But that'll be an interesting conversation when we get there because I definitely, again, I want to embrace just some unique captains today.
All right. Talk about Samir White, too. You like it at 12.3. I mean, he's projected for 22 rushes in the SaberSim, Sims and 82 yards. This 12.31 fair, and then touch on these other running backs whether you want to buy or sell.
Yeah, if I buy any, I want to buy Isaiah Spiller. I think like that's the guy I would buy more than Joshua Kelly.
You're a good man. You're a great man. Some would say Isaiah Spiller is the man.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Spiller is. I wouldn't be shocked if in Week 18 Isaiah Spiller is clearly like the guy here running around, for the last game of the season. But I don't mind buying on him. I think you want to buy on Samir White. It's mainly like if you think the Raiders are leading, which I think the Raiders are just able to move the ball no matter what on this defense. So I think Samir White is going to be a staple of this offense today. Like, regardless, they're going to use that run game. They don't want Aiden O'Connell dropping back 50 times.
Correct.
Amir Abdullah is fine. I'd be curious, do you want I guess if there was no Joshua Kelly, I would have Spiller over him. I was gonna say, do you want Spiller over Abdullah?
Yeah, yeah, as you know, I'm like the biggest Isaiah Spiller fan in best ball history. If Isaiah Spiller comes out and just rips off a 75-yard run, I might have to do I have to run naked through the woods or something like that. That just would be ecstatic. But yeah, I think this is right. I think Samir White getting him a bump up. I'm just looking at the Sims too. I mean, because there's a lot of sites in between stuff right now. SaberSim's kind of in between. They still have like Josh Jacobs barely in. We X'd him for the sake of it, but I don't think Samir White's going to catch 0 passes. I think he's actually going to be an asset in the passing game. Whether it's 1 or 2 catches, I still think he gets work in the passing game just a tad. They like to check down. They like to run screens. I like Samir White a ton. I think that's very fair to get him within a half point of Ekeler. And this is where it will get funky too, when we have Samir White captains that potentially leave 3,000 or 4,000. And I think this is kind of the right place to have it. And I'm just going to change Amir Abdullah just to show it, just to show that we haven't changed, even though it's only a 0.05 bump. And I think that's a good starting point, man. Gun. I think this is the right play.
Okay, yeah. There's some things I would maybe like. If you don't like it again, like Rui said, you can change it and mess with it. But one thing again, this is my mental block. I would always like. Rubio, tell me if this is dumb. I would make like Amir Abdullah at like 5, and like I'd make like Spiller 4.99, because that means I'd get like a ton of Spiller over Abdullah no matter what, because the salary can matter. But on this slate, the thing you might be right about is just like there might be infinite salary where maybe you just want to project the actual points, like the order instead, because of the salary issue.
That's fair. I do think that at the end of this, you're going to be surprised by how little value we get. Because of what we did to Ekeler and what we're about to do to these wide receivers. It's going to look like a shopping shop outside these Raiders. So it'll be interesting. I mean, here, we're going to have a fun conversation here. So let's go ahead and get the Raiders out of the way. And then I want to talk to you about the Chargers. So talk to me about Adams and Myers and what you want to do, buy or sell.
I'm fine with having Adams over Myers. There's obviously a big price gap difference, but that might not matter. So I'm cool with that. We can lower their projections if you want, or higher. I don't have a take. You can handle the receivers for us.
All right, I'm going to make Adams 0.01 above Ekeler. I like Adams a bit more than Ekeler. But yeah, like we bumped Daniel Connell down. We bumped Samir White up. The script that we're kind of playing is that the Raiders play smash mouth football and that these guys kind of get involved a little bit. But like we're going to sell slightly on the receivers. Though it's still a good spot. Still my favorite wide receivers in this game. But the script that we're playing is since we bumped AOC down, we bumped Samir White up. Makes sense to bump these wide receivers down just a tad. And let's go ahead and do the same with needle mover Hunter Renfrow. Someone who would have made the Chiefs a contender.
Yes, Kurt, congrats on your Hunter Renfrow. That was an amazing tweet. Also, Rubio, this is like the Rubio Dimes hype train team. I mean, we got Isaiah Spiller, Jalen Guyton, Stone Smart. I mean, we got Rubio's boys on this slate. I'll say that right now.
Yeah, we get a lot of love here to scrubs, and my favorite scrubs are the Chargers scrubs, especially. And I do think that the Chargers are worth a long conversation. All right, because when you look at the sports books and stuff, a lot of the sites that do projections do a lot of stuff based on props, based on Vegas props. The wide receiving props on just the receiving yards alone for the Chargers is about 60 yards lower than Easton Stick's passing prop. So you can notice a substantial gap to what these receivers are being projected and what the props are trying to say and stuff. They don't know. They don't know what to do. And that's what we're here for. We're trying to figure out what they do.
Maybe they're saying Gerald Everett, Rubio. Maybe they're saying Gerald Everett's the guy.
No, they have Gerald Everett on here too.
So you included him. But you said the receivers. You included Gerald Everett.
Oh, my bad. We do pass catchers. That's my bad. Pass catchers. Boom. All right. So pass catchers here alone. All right, Josh Palmer. The fear is that he's limited. Right. That's a big fear. If he wasn't limited, over 34.5 passing yards would be a lot. I don't want to get too overextended on Palmer, but I think he deserves a small bump. I think he's going to deserve to be above the kickers, clearly. All right.
Agreed.
Who do young quarterbacks rely on the most, man, going when it's their first start? Who are they looking for to be their security blanket?
Yeah, Gerald Everett. That's what the tight end. I am excited to run back a tight end to the captain. That's exactly what I was hoping you would do. So let's boost some Gerald Everett. I think he's going to be a very, very good play on the slate.
I am in full agreement with you, and I think it's worth noting. So I don't want to just go ahead and come on here because it was a Trails Crypt, completely different game and stuff. But Easton Stick on the last drive alone, he gave it a completion to Gerald Everett, right? Boom. He also had through two to Keenan Allen. But he did look for Gerald Everett when he was in. And I think it's worth noting the 5 catches for 39 yards. At least 3 of those catches came from Easton Stick. Full game, I think this is a good projection. I think 8.5, even 8.75 is a good spot here for us to kind of go overweight on Gerald Everett. You won, $26,000 with Hunter Henry captain. So anything can happen here.
Yeah,
let's go ahead.
I think it's really just, it's one of those things where when you have someone like, I assume Crosby's playing, I know he's limited throughout the week. Like when you have a guy like Crosby just putting so much pressure on you, like when you're a young quarterback, well, the deep ball can be taken away a lot more in these game situations, and those dump offs to Gerald Everett are going to happen. So also keep in mind when you have a young quarterback, coaches sometimes they kind of simplify the playbook a little bit, and when you simplify the playbook, what's that going to be? It's going to be a little bit more options for the tight ends, right? Just on like small little routes to keep them close as like a security blanket, like we talked about. So I absolutely love that. I think he's a great play.
All right, give me your Quentin Johnston take. I'm going to go ahead and adjust the guys that we don't really need to talk about a ton, but we'll keep them in there.
Okay, so I want to be very low on Quentin Johnston. Now, the only thing I would ask, and I'm not saying I'm right on this, but I think I read that Quentin Johnston did catch like a big pass from Stick the other day. Yes, and I talked about the connection, right? The backup, has Quentin Johnston maybe been playing with him? Like I could see my opinion on him change as the day goes on, because that's just my current opinion, but I could read up on some stuff and be like, man, maybe I should consider him a little bit more, because I value that quarterback with been in practice with a receiver relationship. I value that. And I don't know. What is your thoughts on Quentin Johnston? Because I typically say, hey, if he's going to have ownership, which I think he's going to have enough ownership for me not to be comfortable with, I want to be under, I think, on Johnston. What do you think?
5.9 is extremely low. Extremely low. I thought it would be closer to 8, to be quite honest with you. And he's only projecting for 17% ownership right now.
Well,
we're high on Stick.
Why don't we move him to 7.1? I think that seems solid, right? It's middled between both of those other guys, right? Yeah. Well, let's see. Again, you said we can always adjust, right? You know what I mean? Yep. It's 11:34 a.m. I got hours and hours to tinker with this. I get to watch Big T and JSU later and take in their opinions and figure out what I want to do. So let's put him there. He's definitely a guy that I came into the show wanting to be more under on and not excited about. But if you say 17% ownership, I don't know. I'm definitely more back in on it.
So the selling point would be the season's over. All right, they got no shot at making the playoffs. They got no shot at making any noise. Let's see what we have in these younger players. Let's force the ball to Quentin Johnston. Keenan Allen is out. There goes 10, 11, 12 targets a game. Joshua Palmer limited. Quentin Johnston is the de facto number 1 option tonight. Let's see what he's got. Let's see the juice in the tank, and let's see what happens. All right, that's the selling.
Rubio, I like that sell. Another thing that I personally want in my constructions, which when I run everything on my end and do my own stuff, I will be doing. The first thing I'm going to do when I run my vanilla build is I'm going to look at what are the builds. Are they 5-1s? Are they 4-2s? Are they 3-3s? And one thing I want to do on this slate, you said a lot of Raiders are being pushed, Rubio. I want to have some 4-2 Chargers, right? I want to be more Chargers heavy than the field, and these receivers will allow me the ability to do that.
All right, I give half point bump up to Everett and Johnston. All right, and let's go ahead. Just Meyer, Guyton. Here's the guys that probably won't click for me a ton. They're red zone options and stuff, and yeah, not a big fan. Let's go ahead and go to defense kickers, and then let's run these teams and see what we're spitting out. So the greatest kicker in all the land, Cameron Dicker, and then Daniel Carlson. I don't let's not get too extreme or anything. 8.25 for a kicker is always good. 7.75, right? We don't have to talk entirely too much about it. Oh, well, something wrong, kicker.
Yeah, I want Carlson over the defense. I'll say that. Do you want Dicker over the Raiders D or no? That's another debate.
That's a debate right there.
I think based on the pricing, yes, because you're still going to get Raiders defense. I would want to make sure Dicker's above him. And again, we can always adjust it.
All right, I like it. Let's go ahead and hope that AOC doesn't throw a pick six on us. All right, let's go ahead and build these teams. So remember how to add contest sims, guys. If you hit contest up here at the top, hit all contests, and then go ahead and right-click the contest you want to do. We're going to do the flagship MME tonight, which is the 500K to first. We do that. We go back up to Mangone Sucks at League of Legends, our build name, and then we go to settings, scroll down to contest sim settings, and then we check that a box right there. And we go ahead and build a 5,000 teams. You can do that after the fact as well. We're going to go ahead and sim 5,000 teams. So, Mangone, while this is happening, while 5,000 teams are in the oven, let's go ahead and get your thoughts on who wins this game and what's the score. We got an over-under of, 34.5. Do you think it goes over? Do you think it goes under? And who wins the game?
Yeah. So I'm leaning it's a close game. I think it's a competitive game. Let's go with it's 20-17 Raiders win. How's that sound? 2017. So the over hits, and hopefully we don't need defenses. Let's hope that's the case. I think with a 20-17 score, we won't need them as much, but you never know. But yeah, my lean is to be 20-17, and hopefully those defenses don't get there. I'm not going to X the defenses, but I'm definitely going to be lower than them, I'm sure, than the field. I think the field's going to want to pound the Raiders defense.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I think I love how you middle yourself. You go right with what Vegas thinks. You take the 3-point spread. You say the Raiders are going to win by 3 points. How typical.
Well, to be fair, Rubio, the Chargers play in competitive games, right? Pretty much every week. They're always close. I do think it goes over. I really do. And, I mean, unless Easton Stick is changing this franchise around along with Stone, Smart, Isaiah Spiller, and Jalen Guyton, I don't know. I just don't see – I think this Raiders team is – good enough to get the job done. This defense has been definitely impressive, but I think Easton Stick's going to do enough to at least make it competitive.
All right. I like how you're an optimist. All right, 24-10 Raiders. Chargers come out flat. Brandon Staley is counting his days down as the head coach. Austin Ekeler knows he's washed. They lose this game. They say, Ekeler, you're done for the season. Isaiah Spiller takes on the reins for weeks 16, 17, and 18. Becomes the number one running back in fantasy football after this week. And we all go home happy. All right, 24-10 Raiders.
I just know one thing, Rubio. I know it's not going to be 24-10, and the reason why is I can promise you, I don't know where I am tonight, but what I do know is going to happen is wherever I am, the Los Angeles Chargers will be in a competitive football game. It's just what happens. If fourth quarter, they could be down by 50, right, in the third quarter. And I'd say, I don't know how they're going to come back and make it a competitive game, but they're going to make it a damn competitive game because it's what the Chargers do. They play competitive games, and they lose at the buzzer. It's just what happens.
I mean, Russell Wilson sure had a competitive game last week, huh?
Well, Russell Wilson is, he's built different. You know what I mean?
He is built different. All right, let's go ahead and stop these sims. We got enough teams going to go ahead and on, and let's go ahead and check out what we're spitting out here. So, Captain, look at that, man. Oh, that's a beautiful sight to see. And we haven't even ran the contest sims. So let's go ahead and run those contest sims in the top right. The single game score is still something where if you don't have the contest sims, guys, it's a great thing. And honestly kind of just factors in everything too. What we can go ahead and see what the top team RIA, ROI is as well. We can see what it grades out. So I think this is a good build here. I think we talked about, hey, can we do a 5-1 with Easton Stick naked? And I think that's kind of in the cards tonight. You would need Easton Stick to run one in, but let's look at this build here. It's not a bad ROI at all. It's 117%. It's very solid. Even these builds here. So with the single game score, you're still getting really good lineups, to be honest. So if you feel like, oh man, I can't get up to the contest sims, that's fine. The single game score under Saber score is still a great tool. Let's go ahead, though, and sort by ROI and the number one team, man.
I love that team. That's a good one.
Oh, you're a big Jalen Guyton fan, I know.
It's just it definitely fits a lot of what we've talked about. But now I had a feeling based on liking those Chargers receivers, we'll probably get a lot more Raiders captains because of that naturally, because we need spend captains. If we're lower on Ekeler, and we're not getting Easton Stick as 100% captains, right? Obviously, Raiders expensive captains are just going to pop in there. So
yeah.
That team's pretty good too. This is what I wanted to ask. Can you go to the, I said this is what I like to do, Rubio, and I'm going to hijack the show. Go to the team stacks. I want to see what are we looking at right now? So like go to, so we have a bunch of 4-2s and 3-3s, and then 5-1s is low. I'm very happy that the 5-1s are low because I'm not super excited about 5-1s today. So that's already an encouraging sign, especially because of the script that we set up. I was hoping it would do that. Now let's go to the 4-mans. I want to see, based on the 4-mans, how many Chargers ones we get.
Oh, look at that. Even.
I love that. We actually get more technically, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's all. So can we click on the 4-man Chargers? I just want to look at those specifically now. So put the hourglass on it. I want to see what those look like specifically. So, I mean, that team is definitely not bad right there. I think it's a really solid team that I would not mind. That can work too, obviously. You can have one of those like an Adams in the captain, which wouldn't be crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's the same one with Johnson over Everett. Let's see. Let me get one where, Samir White with Devontae Adams. You get the kicker, and you get.
I love that. Yeah,
that one's a good one. Look how much salary it leaves too. This is a lineup that we are actually fans of, and the reason why this would be viable, right? Like, hey, that lineup will never win. Well, what do you mean? Samir White gets 2 touchdowns for the Raiders. This game ends like 20-14 or whatever, right? Cameron Dicker, kicks 2 field goals, right? That I would assume that maybe the Chargers win this one. Easton Stick throws a touchdown to Ekeler and Everett. That's not unfeasible at all, right? It's not unfeasible at all. I think that 4-2 Chargers here are leaving $3,700 in salary. This is as good of a build as it gets where you're super unique from the field. There's no way this gets duped. I mean, God, I cannot believe that this got duped.
Those are the ways I want to play like Samir White captain, right?
Yeah.
Like I think some of the Samir White captain, not some, like if you have Samir White captains that use all your salary, like they're going to be very duped. Now, I'm not saying they can't win or you can't play them, but it's definitely something to think about for sure. And one thing I love seeing is that there's a lot of these like teams leaving a ton of salary. Like Ruby, I know you know that when I run my teams, I typically leave like I typically don't play anything that's 50,000, 49,900 or 49,800. I just don't. If I lose those, like if those teams are the winner, they're just the winner, and I don't care. If I rule myself out, I don't also play 150 teams. I've just been playing, I've been trying to get better at Showdown this year, and I've been trying to like work on it. And I felt like I've been getting less dupes that way, and I've been only playing 20 teams. I play basically between like 20 and 30 in the main, and call it a day. And I feel like based on that one win I had, it's made up for the entire season for just Showdown in general. So yes. I'm set and mint, but I just think it cancels out some of these duplicated builds that you just didn't want to have in general. So if you play less lineups, you're playing 150. I totally get wanting to have some of those duplicated builds. Obviously, not all of them. You don't want to have a 500-man train. That just doesn't seem like an optimal idea. But I might even be more aggressive, Rubio, and like leave. Like I might make them in like 5-9, 500 today. Like I might make it even more aggressive, just because some of these teams that we have found are really interesting. Can we also look at a Gerald? Can we look at a Gerald Everett captain? Because I know we talked about liking that a little bit today.
All right. The reason why man going to see a Gerald Everett captain is because he won $26,000 playing Hunter Henry captain. All right. So you guys wondering why the fuck do you want to play Gerald Everett captain? Well, here's why. So let's go ahead and dive in real quick. And I did want to say this too, because you've been really good at avoiding dupes this Showdown season. You were extremely close in the Cowboys Thanksgiving slate against the Washington Commanders. Well, you were winning $80,000 for a significant portion of that game, and it wasn't until that fourth quarter where it was the Cavante Turpin touchdown over the middle. It was late in the game, and then it was a pick six that even threw you another $30K down. But you were very good at avoiding dupes, and that's very huge for someone who's only playing 20 lineups and stuff. I mean, that is just incredible. You don't need to play 150 to win, right? You are doing a great job where you're putting yourself in position where I've seen you over the last month. You've been at least in first place, like on some of these slates in the third quarter quite often.
Yeah, the key for me is that was the biggest change I made. Not only that, the two biggest changes I think I made that were important were the salary thing, especially again, like I know there's people watching this, they're only playing like 10 teams or 5 or even a couple. Like the salary thing was big. And then I think I've always been back to when we did the shows, right? Embracing like the unique, like the 4-2 underdogs, right? Like
Yep.
I always talked about that a lot. And then like I used to hand build them. And then when I was using the optimizer, I wasn't doing it enough. I mean, Rubio, sometimes I go in there. If I do the projection updates and it's not enough, I'll go in there and set a min and be like, if I'm only getting 10% Chargers in the 4-mans, I'll say, give me a min of like 40% 4-man Chargers, right? Like I just will aggressively push that in, because what I think the Sims are doing for me and giving me a lot of success is I'm not just putting projections in, running it and letting the Sims do its work, and it's going to get a lot of similar teams. I'm saying if a 4-2 Chargers wins, I want to have some really good sim lineups from the 4-2. So I'm getting the best sim teams that I feel like people aren't unlocking or going to, right? So that's kind of one reason I've been doing that. And I just noticed some success with it for sure. So it sounds like you and I are in agreement on wanting to be a little more aggressive with Chargers today. And I think the reason why is these pass catchers are just too cheap. And I think there's just enough opportunity there that we shouldn't ignore the Chargers side. And we like Easton Stick more than the field itself.
Yeah, exactly. And here's your Gerald Everett captains as well. So this one, I think you're going to like. We get a lot of double Myers and Adams, double stacks, which is fine with me because the secondary is bad. We can see it where if you told me 5 catches for 70 yards for Myers and 7 catches for 80 yards for Adams, my chances of taking that are pretty high, because I think there's a chance that they both outscore Ekeler in that case. And that's what we need. Even though Ekeler is way more expensive than Myers, like the real battle is Adams versus Ekeler. And I think you can throw Stick against O'Connell there too. But we're also a little bit lower on Ekeler as a whole. Just like in the Sims, right? You're a little higher on him than me. I'm a pessimist. I don't like Ekeler at all. That's why you're not seeing him pop a ton. But you have a battle here, right? It's like basically the same exact build, except Ekeler over Adams are the top 2 teams. And these are good builds, but you're leaving 400, leaving 600. The dupes aren't incredibly high. You're still getting, I think I would almost rather do this one for the 3-3. You get the 3-3 involved here where you're kind of covered off. If the Chargers keep it close like you think and Everett catches the touchdown, like that's a pretty good team right there.
Yeah, is there a 4-2 Chargers one, like where it's 4 Chargers? I'm just curious.
Boom.
I could see, yeah, like that one. Good, yeah. I like that one a lot. I think that was one we looked at already once, but I like that one a lot for sure. That's definitely a really good one that I would be interested in. Not saying you need to go Dicker. Also, another thing too, like I think it makes sense, like the Ekeler stuff. I know one reason why, like you might be looking at our teams and be like, why are we getting so many Adams and Myers? It's because we made an adjustment to Ekeler, right? The field is still very high on Ekeler, right? People are going to play Ekeler. He's going to be very high owned. So don't think that like this combo of Adams and Myers just like insanely owned because you're seeing it on our end, because we made adjustments, right? I think that's worth mentioning.
And can I go ahead and mention something that we bumped Ekeler down? We bumped Adams ahead of him, and we are still getting 62.7% Ekeler. All right. Ekeler is going to clock in higher than 47% in the flex. I genuinely think that he's going to be closer to 80% tonight, and I don't love it. All right, I don't think he's good anymore. But he can catch passes. You don't need to be good to catch passes. You don't need to be good to get 8 PPR points from your running back set. And his touchdown equity is still there. It's just something to think about, right? Like, I don't know. I'm cool fading him for these Raiders wide receivers and O'Connell and hoping that, Ekeler doesn't get the touchdown, because there's a legit chance that the Chargers score 1 touchdown tonight, and it's Easton Stick throwing it to Gerald Everett.
Yeah. I'm in agreement. I think my plan, if you told me to draw, like when I look at my teams, I like to look at the ownership percentages, or not ownership, the exposure percentage, and kind of like adjust until I get the right percentage, but also not adjust too much where I've gone crazy. For me, ideally, I want either 5 or 10% Austin Ekeler in the captain. And then in the flex, I probably want like 40 to 50. I think ideally I want to have like 10% captain, 40% flex, call it a day. So he'd be on half my teams. I'm still under the field. And I think that'd still be worth it to me. Now, if I am getting less for some reason based on my adjustments, I might embrace that still and be okay with it. But I feel like it's going to be a difficult task to get lower on Austin Ekeler today.
What do you think about getting rid of 5-1s in general tonight?
I mean, I'm typically very okay with Xing 5-1s. You know what I did last slate, Rubio? Actually, this is a cool exercise. Go to the 5-1 specifically, like the actual ones. Yeah. No. Go to the team stack. Sorry. Like team stacks and hit 5-mans. Okay. So what I actually did, this is what I did on the Steelers slate. I was getting in my first one, I got 40% Steelers 5-1s. And I was like, almost half my teams are going to be 5-1s. That sounds stupid. Like, I just didn't like that. So what I did was, and this is because, again, I wanted to embrace more Patriots. And here, I want to embrace more Chargers. I put a max on it, right? So when I was getting 40, I made my max 20. So if you're getting like 15 and you only want like 5%, then put a max of 5. And you're going to be pushed a lot more 4 2s and 3 3s. Sure, you can exit, but I wanted to still make sure I even got some 5-1 Patriots because I thought those Patriots were good plays. Like, I thought a lot of those cheap options. We got the Devontae Parker news. I thought we had a lot of good opportunity that opened up. So point I'm getting at is I'm okay with setting a max on these things. Like, let's say you want to have 5-1s, but you just don't want them all to be Raiders, and you want to embrace some of the Chargers 5-1s. That's a way to do it. This isn't the best slate to embrace the 5-1 Chargers, I'll admit, but point I'm getting at is that's how you do it, and that's something that has given me success that I've worked on.
Yeah, I like it. I think that we've covered over everything. So, I mean, if you guys have a question or anything like that, I mean, feel free to ask us in the Discord here, Run Pure Sports. Giblets 44% off your first weekly or monthly payment. Mangone and I will definitely be in the NFL chat. A bunch of other coordinators will as well. So if you guys ever have any questions about SaberSim specifically, definitely, feel free to ask us, right? We'll definitely help you guys out. Especially just doing the chat too, where it's like a public, because some people might have the same question as you. We can knock out like multiple birds with one stone. So if you're wondering how to do something, never hesitate to ask. We got a full show scheduled tonight. We got the 3 p.m. NFL Print Factory that'll have Big T, JSU, and Wiley, and then we have the 2 NBA shows that'll take you all the way up to lock, starting at 4:45, and the Up to Lock show obviously at 6 o'clock. So should be a good time. Thanks for joining me, man. It's been a great time. It's always a pleasure to see you from France. Can you speak French?
I can't, but I can say Raheem Mostert. So I put the little French accent on some players. So I give it to Raheem because he deserves that. But overall though, it was fun to be here. Thanks for letting me hijack the show and give some thoughts on some different things. And I think I remember I was laying in bed last night thinking about the slate, and because sometimes you can't get your mind off it. You're like, I was just thinking about it and stuff. And this slate, I like it a lot. Like, I looked at it and I was like, this slate looks like a slate that was similar to the last one with the same ideas that I had. So hopefully I can replicate it again. But definitely a lot of similar thought processes are coming into this slate as the past slate. So I just need it all to come to fruition. And hopefully you and I, Rubio, if I ship tonight, I will buy us both Easton Stick jerseys. Okay, you can have one, I can have one. We'll both have an Easton Stick jersey. How's that?
Hey, just to flip the table even further, if Isaiah Spiller goes for a touchdown tonight, I'll buy us both Isaiah Spiller Texas A&M jerseys because he ain't going to be a Charger for much longer.
No, you need a Chargers one, not an A&M one. You need a Chargers one.
If he wins me $3 million, I'll buy the Chargers edition.
There you go. So this is what he's going to do. He's going to win you the milli tonight, and then you're going to have a Chargers jersey. He's going to take the job, and he's going to win best ball. He's going to win you your best ball drafts and everything. You stashed him super late, and he's going to win it.
All right, that'll be fun time. And don't forget that before about a minute ago, Mangone said he was laying in bed thinking about the slate. So if you guys are wondering what gets him going, it is definitely some fantasy NFL showdown that gets him going when he's in bed. So have a good one, guys, and good luck tonight. Again, Giblets 44% off your first week or month with Run Pure Sports.